Alright you guys, today we are going to go over the installation of a dash camera in a Honda Insight 2021 Touring. This camera is actually the Thinkware F70, and I've used it in multiple other ones. The reason I have chosen its location is, as you can see when driving, it is behind the rear view mirror so you don't have to see it. But if you look from the under angle, right here will be a green light once it's been installed. So I used this dome area here that has the electronics behind it, and I initially held it up to see where I liked it. I liked it over here closer to the center mirror, but I could have selected over here, which was a good platform to use the double-sided tape to also. The reason I don't use just sticking it right to the glass itself right here, I just like to kind of keep it up and keep it a cleaner look. And tomorrow I'll be getting a window tint done across the top of here, which will come to at least here. So I could have used it on the glass, but from the outside you see it, and I don't like that visual. I'm going to apologize about the glare, but as you can see where that sits from the outside view, and this glare is really bad. I've tried to adjust lights in any way I can. You'll see it hanging, but if you had actually attached it to the window, you would see a large square right here that it actually attaches to the window. So that's one of the reasons I chose the interior look, is you just see it hanging down and it's right behind the mirror. And I'll see if I can get a better picture or video of that. Alright, so the first step into the actual wiring part of this is right up here. There's a little tiny pull tab. If you stick your finger in it and kind of pull it down, this part here I was able to kind of pop out from the bottom, and I again got my finger up at the top of it and pulled it down. When looking at the piece itself, sorry about that, this is going to be the piece that we just pulled out, and as you can see they just have these little tiny clips, and these two clips right here are what are setting that tension in, and this part here, if you see how it's got that forward lip, allows you to pop this down and then pull it towards you. So when in here, you're going to pull this part down and then out towards you. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to end up running our wire up through here and in up here, and we'll make our electrical connection up in behind here. There are two screws up underneath here, and to get this off, you're going to take just a flathead screwdriver and put it right up in here and kind of twist a little bit, and do the same thing on this back side. And this is what that part looks like. So that's what you're trying to get at. It will clip out. It does take a moment. So this is where you want to put the screwdriver, and it should just pop down like that. And we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side, and it will pull out. And like I said before, there are two screws up in there. We're just going to undo those and remove them. Once you have removed the two of those, we're just going to pull down on this and kind of slide it forward, and it comes down, and there's our wires. I'm going to come in and end up testing out the wires to figure out when I have positive and a negative, only when the key is in the on position. I don't want this while we're off or anything else, depending on how you want your setup. I know in some of the other Hondas I have worked on, they do sometimes have circuits that will be having power when the doors are open, but not when they're closed. So make sure when you're testing this out that you check that. I am going to particularly, most likely going to run off of the sunroof open and close, because this switch does not work unless you have the actual power switch on. So I think that's going to be my easiest switch to go into right off the bat. And the next part, just from doing a couple of these, I know that this first one right here is going to be your speakers for your microphone for your phone. So we're going to unplug that one off the bat. This next one we know is going to be our OnStar link system. So we know that that one's going to come off the bat. Those are two that you can also use. I might check those, at least the OnStar link, but I don't know if that has positive power at all times or not. This next one right here is most likely going to end up being your lights, courtesy lights. So we're going to take that one out. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. And to get these out, if you guys are not familiar, there's a little push button here. You just push down on that and slide out. So that leaves this one here as our next main culprit that I believe is going to be for the main switches that I'm going to start testing. I'm not sure off the bat. I'm going to grab my voltmeter and I'll get back to you on what I discover for this particular layout. Yours should be about the same. Alright, so right now the vehicle is in the off position. What I've done is set up my negative just into my cigarette lighter. So I know I've got a good ground. So I'm getting 12.53 off of the green. So if you are setting up one of the ones that has the all-time security feature, you could use the green as that mode. Now what I'm also going to do is close the door to see, do I lose voltage? So the good news for you guys that need a full-time power source, this green is a full-time power source. When I closed the door, it didn't change. I didn't check it with starting the vehicle because, again, I'm not looking for full-time. I am looking for the ignition on only, but just trying to help you guys out. Alright, you guys, after doing a couple of the tests, it appears that the gray wire is going to be our positive when the vehicle is on. As you can tell, I've got my 14 volts. The vehicle is turned on right now. And like I was telling you guys how Honda had done some weird stuff, when I open the door, this does not change. So I'm going to end up using the gray as my power wire and the black, and I'm probably going to end up grounding it just up here. I might also check the ground wire on this, but I think I'm just going to go straight to the actual chassis and do a self-tapping screw straight into this. I've learned through time I just seem to get a better overall result because of that. Alright guys, as you can tell, I did drill a hole up in there for a self-tapping screw. I will warn you that is very like anodized or very hardened steel. I would not suggest using that the same way I did. I might even up still plugging it in elsewhere. I'm having a problem stripping the self-tapping screws off. What I've done right now is just plug the yellow wire into that gray wire and plugged it back in and plugged in all of our other wires. The reason for this is I want to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to be. So as you can tell, we've still got power because the vehicle still is telling it to be on. If I was to close it, we're going to make sure that the power does come to the off position. And I might have to end up hitting the lock button from the keys. Alright, as you can tell, I've got all the power turned off and it is off. So if I come up and I open the door and I get in, we're not having any power on at this time. I'm sorry, it does come on with the vehicle power. The power is being supplied up to where I can now have the power. So that seems to be the main power going in, but it turns back off if the vehicle's not started. Not sure why that is, but this is one of the things I'm trying to make sure we've got figured out. So I come in here, I start the vehicle. It comes on, and it could very well be that this was just supposed to be the lighting. I don't believe it was. But this is what we want to test before we actually solder in. So we've got our wire in. I'm going to check by turning on and off some lights. And what I'm looking for is any change in that light coming on or off. That is our power. So I'm also going to close. So it seems like this power is staying on, which means this is a good power source to use for full-time power when it is in the on position. Now why that only comes on for a moment or two when the vehicle is not started, I'm not sure. When turning the power to the off position, back off, as you can tell, it does stay on for a couple of seconds. And what I'm going to do is actually exit the vehicle, letting it self-lock, and I'm going to put my keys far enough away that it believes that I've actually left the area. It might not be far enough away yet. Alright, so from a distance I hit the lock button and we do not have power anymore. So that is a good thing. That's what I'm wanting. Alright, and like I was telling you with the self-tapping screw not really wanting to go in there, I have tested out that black does seem to be a negative for the system. So right now I have just placed these wires in there so they're making contact, confirming that I've got power. And I'm going to go drive around the block once or twice and make sure that we're not having any type of issues that shuts the camera off in motion. Hondas have had some issues or ideas of running some positive at some points and negatives at other. We've had an issue with my stepdaughter's SI that she's got. When the door opens, it actually shuts that power down. But as long as the doors are shut, everything was fine. And this is why I wanted to go through some extensive testing on this one, where I haven't had those issues on other vehicles. Obviously, with this being a very new vehicle, I could not find the wiring diagram out there to figure that out. So that's why I'm helping you guys. Alright, it might be a little hard to see, but as you can tell, I skinned off just a little bit of the blue shell, and I was able to make kind of a little bit of a void in there, and I'm going to end up sticking my wire through that and then soldering it together. And that's what it's going to look like before I solder, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not even going to try to solder one-handed. I'll end up pulling the yellow wire up so it gets a proper angle and tape that off. You can use a little tiny parts that you pinch together and it will work, but me particularly, I like to make sure that even in an accident that something's not going to come disconnected, so that way I don't got to come back in this again. And there's that part soldered together. We'll get some tape, wrap that up, and then we're going to go to the negative wire. Alright, after finishing up the soldering job, I've wrapped each one with electrical tape and then wrapped them both together with electrical tape, and even wrapped them to the wire so that there's no pulling on this even with the extra slack. And the one thing I did realize I forgot is I left this on the outside, so I'm going to pull it off of here, and we're going to end up running it through and out up here so we don't see it.
Will now start.
Alright, so we're going to run it through there, and we're going to tuck it in right there and put the cap on it. As you can kind of see, it's going to then tuck up in between the window and the ceiling and just be off to the side, and that will prevent it from having any wires hanging out here or anything else. I can't stand wires. Alright, the last little bit that I want to show you guys I discovered, and how I was talking earlier about each vehicle manufacturer has their corks that will make one different or the other. So this wire, the way the vehicle is anytime that the vehicle is, the unlock button is either hit or the vehicle is in a run position in any manner, it provides power for these lights. So the nice part is when you open the door, it's going to automatically turn on and start recording. There is, in this particular one, about a 5-second delay. So if the power gets turned off and back on within about 5 seconds, it doesn't actually stop recording. What I wanted to show you though is if you hit the lock button, because I haven't left the vehicle, what's going to end up happening is it's going to cut the power to these lights altogether, and then this is in about 5 seconds turns off. So where this might be useful to know is when you're doing your wiring and you're having a weird setup happen. I'm going to hit the unlock button as if I was coming to the vehicle and open it, the door, just like I was getting it, and then close the door. If I was just to be sitting here, it's not gonna, it will be on as long as I'm here, and I can even turn that light to the off position. When I discovered it was doing this and why it was not going off, I had the vehicle in the off position as shown, but I was sitting here with the door open, working on it like this, and it wasn't going off. And that's what I was trying to figure out, is why these lights weren't cutting off. And when I discovered that these lights weren't shutting off after a while, because the vehicle still saw that someone was here, and because that it was providing the power for the lights to be able to be turned on. Once it determines you're away from your vehicle, it cuts that power to these lights to preserve that energy. And because the camera is on that same circuit, it will do that. So I'm about to close this up and we're done. And here we are. This is, from my view, what I have. As you can tell, it tucks behind that mirror, so I don't have to look at it. But if I'm ever worried about it not working or not, I can just look up from underneath, make sure that that light is on, and then I know it's got power. Also, every time I get in and out of the vehicle, it's also alerting me that the power's coming on and off. Alright, you guys, the last little bit that I wanted to do is I took it for a test drive, and I brought my laptop with me. What I've been able to do is stop, pull out the memory card, stick it on my laptop, and make sure I like the view. So as you see, the view is giving you from right here at the windowsill all the way up to the air, and you got good coverage left to right for any vehicle coming at you. So I'm good to go with this.